So oftentimes when you're first starting out, but one of the best ways to build up your patient platform is by taking a lot of call, right? To get those patients that hopefully don't have a cardiologist when you're taking care of them in the hospital. It's a bummer when they do, but if taking care of, patients in the hospital that don't have a cardiologist, very easy referral. You're going to be fresh out of fellowship, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, really excited. Take the time to meet the family. That goes a very long way. Take the extra effort to call the family if they're not at the bedside. Obviously doing on-call cases and STEMI or STEMI, again, meeting the family after the case, before the case, getting involved. This is really going to help establish a strong reputation of compassion, as well as being, the great doctor that you are. And then the other thing is to think about, how did other physicians in the practice build their practice? So one of the things that we had a couple of practice locations when I started, and I noticed that it was very difficult to crack our flagship, which was Clark, which was the first building, my father bought and built, and his patients loved me, but they also really loved him. And, but we had another practice in East Orange in Essex County, and that was a recent buy. It was easier to just establish care there, and so if there are locations that need to be built, build them, because that's going to be your little bit of like your booty. It's going to be your ability to build something up. And obviously you do need to put the time and the effort in, and figure out when there are no shows, why. So for me, I had to do a lot of infrastructure recorrection on a lot of administrative work to also improve the inflow. But I have to say the pandemic really was a blessing, because it allowed us to centralize our work into the Clark location. And I got to help my father understand that if you build a flagship, people will come. So there's this old world thought that you need to really spread out, especially in private practice, to get patients from different zip codes. But the concept of branding also really works. And we had launched a website in 2020. So it's also very important to recognize how the practice that you're joining is going to market you. And that's a very valid question. Ask them, do they have financial support for marketing? Are there brochures? Do they have a marketer? Is there a website? How are you, are you going to get on the website? Give them your bio, work on it, and then refer the patients that you meet to that website. So we launched our website right before the pandemic, and it takes about 6 months for search engine optimization to actually occur. And you can imagine, like, his address has been living for 35 years. So we had to do a lot of correction, but it eventually crawled really well. And it's done really well and helped a lot of, women cardiologists get more second opinion cases than than male cardiologists. And so I have been found so much because of that website. And I have to say that really has helped. Similar to what you said, Nadia, if you started off slow, now it's a matter of, oh my gosh, where do I fill in the time to see these patients? And so it happens. You trust that you are well-trained, you're an excellent doctor, and the practice and the patient volume is absolutely going to come, but take it slow. Definitely take it slow, be methodical, and have a little bit of a strategic approach with building your practice.
Yeah, that's great advice. Regina, what do you think? How long did it take you? You've started now in 2 different programs. So
yeah, so I think it probably took me about 6 to 7 months to feel like my clinic was busy and filled up. I definitely agree with Sheila. The marketing is really important, especially in private practice. And so talk to your admin about how you are being marketed. I did a lot, when I was first starting out, I did a lot of kind of meet and greets with different primary care doctors in the area, not in the area. We would drive over and I would go introduce myself. It was a little bit awkward, but you just power through it. And that actually helped quite a bit. And I got several referrals that way. Nobody wants to take more call, obviously, you have a whole lifetime of call ahead of you, but it definitely helped to be available in the hospital. So where I am set up now, our office is kind of attached to the hospital. So it's easy to kind of shuttle back and forth. So if I'm not able to see a patient during regular clinic hours, then sometimes on a day that I'm supposed to be at the hospital, I'll just swing over at lunch and see them. And that has also helped as well. But I'd say it took me about maybe a good 6 to 7 months.
That's also really great advice. And I mean, I know I've heard from some other ways that they built up some practice volume was like for people who do peripheral, introducing themselves to the podiatrist, to the podiatry team. That would be one example, that I've heard of. And Poonam, any other suggestions?
Yeah, I think there's 3 really important things, particularly first is good clinical care, right? So you got to do, just because you can do a procedure does not mean you should do it. This really have to apply your, I think it's easy to do a procedure. It's the analytical and the decision making that's the most important that you learn really well during your fellowship, and you have to think about it. Guideline directed medical care is what I call it. And then before you do something, or after you do something, it's really important to touch base with your referring providers, with the people who actually sent you those patients. Or if you're, doing a case for somebody who's on service, then follow up with them, ask them if it's okay to proceed with the intervention. So this is just, your practice is going to grow by word of mouth. It's so important. And, your outcomes are important. Your communication is important. And so the more you communicate and the more you follow guidelines, directed care, nobody is going, that's how people start sending you more and more patients, is because they're happy with the way you follow up with them, and you're following the guideline directed care. So, and the other thing is to keep your complications to the minimum in the first, at least a year and a half. After that, if you have complications, people say, oh, that was a tough case or something like that. But initially, if you have a complication, it's always because, oh, she shouldn't have taken on that case. So really be good clinical care. 2 is promote yourself and promote the institution, promote the people you're working with, right? So if you're trying to build a program, find out what's needed by that program, and then try to grow that program. Talk to your, in your own hospital, sometimes you may have a high volume that's not being referred to you. For example, why are these cases not coming to us? And your Epic or whatever system you have ways to find out how many patients are there with the diagnosis that you're interested in. So use those to your advantage. And let's say, for example, I started building a mitral program, so I can look up and see how many people were having mitral regurgitation, and I can tell, why are these patients not being referred? So you kind of talk to your own internal people. You can give talks, use your admin folks, and then you can give talks to your referring providers, and so it increased that promotion. And 3 is that your patients, it's a lot of word of mouth. Sometimes they come to you and think you're so young, how many procedures have you done, and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm ready with all that. I just go in and say, hey, I introduce myself. I've trained there. I'm here 3 years. This is how many procedures we have done. And so the first 1 minute, I've answered all their questions, and and I've seen the difference. They're like so excited and happy about, okay, she's done she's trained well. She's done so many procedures. And so I've seen a whole lot of difference when I interact with patients that way. And then you have to be confident about what you are doing. So know about the procedure, your institutional quality numbers, and all that kind of stuff, and help with quality as well. So I think those 3 are the really important things. And it takes about a year to year and a half, to be honest, to be really respected. And, you start to build that practice that, you could own and call yours.